Hi everybody, my name is Ed Marshall, UC Riverside. I am our campus's Work Strong coordinator, part of our workers' comp division. Okay. One of the things that I've found being a huge contributing factor to workplace, and injuries in general, is a lack of flexibility. Whether we are office workers, dining facilities, flexibility plays a huge role in injury prevention. So what I'd like to share with you today are some real easy stretches that we can do in our workplace, whether we're sitting at a desk or working in a lab or out in the field. So we're going to basically work from our head down to our legs. So for starters, we'll bring Jansen in here. So like I said, one of the things, especially if we're sitting at the desk for long periods of time, we tend to get a lot of stress, a lot of tightness in our necks. And one of the things we probably already instinctively do are neck rolls. So that's what we're going to start with right now. So what I'd like you to do is just start with your chin down to your chest, and real slow, we're going to start rotating our head. And we can pause with our ear towards our shoulder, and then that way we can feel a stretch on the side of our neck, and we're going to continue. All right, and pause again, so we feel the stretch on this side. All right, so we'll do a couple of rotations in one direction, and then we'll start rotating in the other direction. And that's just a real good general neck stretch. Let me turn around. Let's talk about stress. All right, we may feel that at work once in a while, right? And where do we typically hold our stress? A lot of us will feel it right up on the top of our shoulders here, right? So maybe at the beginning of the day, our shoulders are nice and relaxed. By the end of the day, depending on that level of stress, those shoulders tend to get closer and closer to our ears, right? Sometimes that's stress because this muscle group that we're going to target today, right, runs from the tip of our shoulders to the back of our head. So when that stress gets so great, we may even start developing those tension headaches, right? We feel that right in the back of our head. So what we want to target right now is stretching out and reducing the stress and the tension in this upper trapezius muscle. All right. So what I'd like you to do, you can go ahead and turn around. Okay. We're going to start with our right hand behind our back. Okay. It doesn't have to be up high, down low. We just want it back there to kind of hold that shoulder down. All right. With our left hand, we're going to put it on the top of our head, and we're going to turn our chin and gently pull down towards our armpit, right? I like to call this stretch the deodorant check, right? So let's see if Jensen passes. All right, so as he's gently pulling down his chin towards his armpit, he's going to feel that stretch along the top of his shoulder here up to the back of his head. All right, we're going to hold that for a few seconds, and then we're going to switch sides. So he's going to put his left hand behind his back, grab his head, turn, chin gently towards his armpit there. All right. Now remember, with any of the stretches that we're doing, a little bit of discomfort is okay, right? We want to feel that stretch. Pain is bad, right? If you're stretching so hard that it's hurting, and we all have different thresholds, right? But if it's hurting you, we want to back off, because the last thing we want to do is get hurt while we're trying to prevent injuries, right? So that's a really good general stretch for that upper trapezius muscle to reduce a lot of that tension there. So let's talk about static positions again, being in a certain position for an extended period of time, especially if we're keyboarding a lot, right? Those shoulders are kind of hunched forward. Doesn't usually cause a lot of issues, but over time, that tightness in the front of our shoulders and that pectoral muscles can lead to kind of a hunched posture. You may find yourself walking around campus hunched over like that. So while it doesn't cause a lot of pain, it's a good idea to open up that chest every once in a while, right? To stretch that out, to get rid of that tightness. All right. So first thing we're going to do, nice and easy, gentle stretch for that area. Okay. We're going to put our hands behind our back, and we're just going to pinch those shoulder blades back, throw that chest out there. We're going to hold that for a few seconds. We're going to feel that in the front of the shoulders and across the chest. We can relax. We'll do it one more time. And this one you can do standing, you can do seated. Okay. Real easy way to stretch out that area. Okay. Yeah, so that's just a real gentle stretch, a real easy way to open up the chest there. But maybe you need a little more. Right? Maybe you've been working out, maybe you're especially tight in that shoulder and that pectoral area. So I want to show you one of my favorite stretches to really get into that area. But for that, we need something solid to hang on to. I love using door jambs. You can use a wall, a fence post. For today, we're just going to use a whiteboard. Right. So what I'd like you to do is we're going to hang on to our solid object, something that's not going to move around so much. Right. Start with our arm at about 90 degrees. Come up a little bit there. There you go. And from there, Jansen is just going to open up his hips. He's going to turn away from his hand. And with that, he's going to feel the stretch in his forearm, across his biceps, across the front of his shoulders, and across the middle of his chest there. Right. Because we're all different and we're all going to feel tightness in different areas, I really encourage you to play around with your hand angle. Pay attention to where you feel that stretch. Right. Now, Jansen's going to take his hand up a little bit higher. Same move, he's going to open up the hips, open up the shoulders. Again, he's going to feel it in the forearm, in the biceps, across the shoulder. But now he's going to feel it in a different area in his chest, more along this lateral border here. Right. He can take his hand below 90 degrees, same thing. He's going to open up and he'll feel that across the arm, across the shoulders, and a little bit more across the top of his chest there. So you want to play around with that hand position, find that spot that feels really good for you, and then that'll be kind of where you focus, right? And don't forget to show the other side a little love as well. We want to make sure that we work both sides. All right, so next, again, we're going to talk a little bit more about static positions, being in a seated position for an extended period of time, and how that can lead to some tightness as well. So from this position, our hip flexors become the culprit, right? They're in a flex position, long period of time, they tend to tighten up. Now, how many of you, when you get up to go do something in the office, try to walk, and it takes you a few steps before you can get upright because of that tightness in there. So what we want to do now is focus on opening up these hip flexors. So we'll stand up. Now, first thing we're going to do, real easy, gentle way to open up this area. And if you need to, you can hang onto a chair, you can hang onto a desk just for balance. But if not, what we're going to do is hands on our hips, and we're just going to arch our back. We're just going to lean back. And with that, we're going to have feel a little bit of a stretch in the abs, but mostly we're going to open up the hip flexors here. All right. We can hold that for a few seconds and relax. And we can do it again and just kind of open it up. Again, a real gentle, easy way to open up that area. But maybe you need more, right? Maybe you want to feel a really deep stretch in there. So we're going to get into a lunge. And again, encourage you, if you need to, hang onto a chair, hang onto a table for a little bit of stability. So for this one, what we're going to do is just put one leg back, one leg forward, and we're going to drop that back knee down to the ground. We want to keep our torso up nice and tall. We want to even lean back a little bit. What we're trying to do right here is get the quads to stretch. We're really opening up those hip flexors, and you'll feel it in the abs a little bit as well. All right, so we can switch around, go the other way. One leg back, one leg forward, dropping that back knee. All right, leaning back nice and tall. All right, we can hold that for a few seconds, really open it up. Good. All right, and that's a more intense stretch for that area. All right, so we'll have you face the wall. All right, still dealing with the hips. Okay. Sciatic pain. All all right? We've all heard of sciatica. How many of you have experienced that, right? That really intense pain that sometimes starts in the low back, sometimes it travels down the leg a little bit, sometimes it travels down the leg a lot. Right? So that sciatic nerve is really thick nerve that comes out of our lower back, winds its way through those posterior hip muscles, the glutes, the deeper hip muscles, the piriformis, and then winds its way down our leg. So a lot of times when we're experiencing that sciatic pain, we can trace it to muscle tightness, whether it's the posterior hip or the hamstring. With these muscle groups being very tight, that sciatic nerve doesn't have much room, right? So those tight muscles start impinging on that nerve. That's when we get that shooting pain down our leg. So a real easy way to stretch that out while we're in a seated position, right? And it's as simple as crossing your leg. So Jansen's gonna put his right ankle up on his left knee there. And that alone, if you do that, you may already be feeling a little bit of a stretch in that posterior hip, right? Some of us are really tight. But from here, what Jansen's gonna do is he's gonna hinge at the hips, kind of lean forward a little bit, and that's going to intensify the stretch in that area. And at the same time, if you need a little bit more intensity, we can put a little downward pressure on that knee as well. So with that lean forward, that downward pressure, we're really getting that posterior hip muscle. Now, here's the fun part. Compare sides, all right? Let's try the other side. Same thing. We're gonna lean forward, hinge at the hips there. If we need to, a little downward pressure on that knee. Now most of us, with most of our muscle groups, are gonna be tighter on one side than the other. So figure out which side is your tight side, and then of course, that's gonna be the side that we focus on a little bit more, spend a little extra time on that tight side so that we can balance out. So again, because those posterior hip muscles along with tight hamstrings can affect that sciatic pain, all right? Another easy stretch to do from this position to stretch out those hamstrings is just grab another chair. Okay, hopefully in your office, in your workspace, you have access to an extra chair, a stool, okay? And then as you're working, just throw a leg up on that chair. Okay? Nice, easy, passive stretch on that leg. All right? And if you need to, lean forward on it, feel a little more stretch in there. Okay? And again, we want a little balance, right? So we can switch sides, throw that leg up there, and continue working. All right? Relax that muscle, forget that you're trying to stretch it, and just let your body weight work on elongating that muscle group. All right? So if we do that, stretch out our hamstrings, stretch out our glutes, that puts our hips in a more neutral position, gives that sciatic nerve more room to live, and chances are it's gonna reduce some of that sciatic pain for you. All right? So, last but not least, let's talk about our fingers, our wrists. We've all heard that dreaded carpal tunnel syndrome, right? It's bad news. Inflammation in our wrists, right? Causing the tendons in our wrists to swell, right? Maybe the symptoms being numbness, tingling, right? Bad news. So what do we usually do to prevent that? So most of us instinctively already do wrist circles, right? When we've been working for a while and our wrist starts feeling tired, right? We usually do that. That's great. Get a little movement in there. And because the muscles that wiggle our fingers as we're keyboarding are all in our forearms, one of the other things that we usually do are forearm stretches, right? Great stretch. We want that arm extended out. We're stretching out those muscles that help us wiggle our fingers. And a lot of us do that instinctively. So keep it up. That's all good. As we start developing inflammation in the wrist, right? Those tendons start to swell, okay? Puts a little pressure on the blood vessel and the nerve that go through that same carpal tunnel area, and that's typically when we start experiencing symptoms, the numbness and the tingling. Right? So this next little group of exercises we're going to show you are designed to get those muscle tendons to break up some of that inflammation that may be developing in that area. All right? So what I'd like you to do is start off with your arms straight out in front. And the first one is the hook fist. We're just going to bend the tips of our fingers. And for right now, we're just going to do it a few times. Open and close, open and close. Right? Next, we're going to do a straight fist. So we're going to take our fingers down to the bottom of our palm. Open and close, open and close. All right. Next, we're going to do a full fist. So just open, open and close. And last but not least, we're going to take our thumb across our palm. Open and close, open and close. All right, so real simple. We did that 20 seconds or so. How many of you already feel just a little bit of something in that area, right? It's a new movement. You haven't done it before, so it's going to take a little getting used to. Practice those, and pretty soon, you'll start doing them instinctively, just as easy as you do your wrist circles. Right? You can do them at the office, you can do them in the car. If you're driving, do one at a time. Okay, don't take your hands off the wheels. But again, those are designed to help break up the inflammation in there, reduce some of those symptoms that you may be feeling. Now, key here is do it sooner than later. All right? Don't wait for the symptoms to develop. Okay? Once the symptoms start developing, it's going to be harder to get rid of, right? So as a general practice, it should be something that we do daily anyway in order to prevent that inflammation from occurring in the first place. So that about wraps it up. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you found value in the stretches that we showed you. Like I said, wanted to hit some of those general areas that a lot of us have issues with. Now, before I go, one of the things that people often ask is, how often should I stretch, right? Once a day, twice a day? Can we stretch too much? My philosophy is stretch when you need it, right? If you're feeling a little fatigued, a little tired, a little tight, maybe a little soreness from, activities, that's a perfect time to stretch, right? You don't need to go through all of the stretches that we just went through. Maybe just target those areas that you're having issues with, but definitely I think the more we stretch, the better. And if we do it on a consistent basis, then you're going to see more benefit as far as improvements in your range of motion. So again, thank you again for joining us. Feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions. Have a great day.